All right, welcome back to another episode of Into the Valley. Today we will be looking back on what looked like a comfortable victory, but we definitely made hard work of it in the end. The 2-1 win at the Valley against Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, let me know, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so obviously we went 1-0 up fairly it was about 20, 25 minutes into the first half from that, I think, 20, around that sort of time. Um, and then we were sort of quickly after that went 2-0 up. And I thought after the second one went in, I thought, okay, here we go. We could this could be a 4-5er. We looked pretty good. We looked pretty free flowing. The two goals obviously fairly early in the game. And I was desperate for us to sort of go into that second half and really push on. I think I messaged you at the time saying like this is there for us to sort of really be a bit more expansive, sort of show what we can do going forwards. And unfortunately, it went the opposite way. And actually, Wednesday came out second half and really grew into the game and actually put us right on the back foot. We gave away a number of chances in that second half, and obviously eventually they took one. Bannon sort of weaving his way through, playing in one of their strikers to hit the post. I thought it was a bit unlucky from the keeper because obviously he's dived and then he's not really been able to recover. But after that, I mean, we was kind of hanging on for a little bit. It did feel that way.
Yeah, and I kind of felt, I think before that as well, just the way the half started, and I mean, they got the goal in the 69th minute, but it felt like it was coming. And it reminded me of the Derby game where it just felt like it's only a matter of time till they get that goal. And as soon as they did, then it's that really difficult, like a lot of people say, 2-0 is one of the most dangerous scorelines, because when you're then pegged back to 2-1 in the 70th minute, how do you play the game?
Yeah.
And I felt they were just massively on top. And some of it also to our own making. And I think one thing we've got to look at is a huge amount of pride in the fact that we did walk away with the 3 points.
And ultimately, that is the biggest thing. We got the 3 points.
Because I think historically there are years gone by where that's a game we lose or we draw, and actually we did get the 3 points in the end. We just made it, in my opinion, a lot harder than we needed to, albeit the flip side of that being giving also a credit to Sheffield Wednesday, because I thought the way they played, I've looked at their results recently. I haven't watched as much of them close up game by game. I was actually quite impressed with them, and I thought they gave actually quite a good account considering everything going on. The only thing I think that probably most Sheffield Wednesday fans would admit is there was some incredibly, you can tell it's a young put together squad, because there was a lot of little mistakes. There was,
I think especially defensively, they had quite a few young defenders in there. I think you could tell they were there to be got at a little bit in terms of the balls over the top, not so confident maybe in the air, that sort of thing. Whereas when we played the likes of Millwall, Preston, everything was getting straight back to us basically. But you're right, I don't think Sheffield Wednesday are no mugs, and actually they might be bottom of the league and in a really terrible position as a club in terms of ownership and stuff like that, but they are still all going to be there playing for the shirt, and you could really see that in the second half.
Yeah, and I think it's quite an easy one to think, okay, Sheffield Wednesday are coming with all the turmoil, to probably underestimate them. And I think that's one thing I'd say to any clubs who have Sheffield Wednesday coming up, is that there is still a fight there, but there is also some quality in there. I mean, I thought Lowe was really good. I thought Valerie was pretty good. You had Ingleson as well. I thought he was actually causing us a lot of problems.
To be fair as well, Bannon on his day, I mean, he did not have his best game by any stretch, but on his day, he's a really dangerous operator in the Championship, a really quality player. So like you said, you named quite a few there, and they've even the younger players, to be fair, although they're obviously coming in with little experience, there's still quality there.
And I think there's that there's no expectation on them. That it kind of creates a relative fearless mentality, because realistically, no one's going to judge them if they are struggling with everything going on and the fact they are being chucked into the squad. So they get that kind of
free reign a little.
Free reign, and I think actually with a lot of younger players, there'll be games where that goes really against them, and it won't quite click. But there will be games where it does all click into place, and they're a really difficult team to play. And as I say, you can see that away from probably the Coventry result at home, they've had some really good results recently, and are proving that they're not just the pushovers that a lot of people maybe thought they would be at the beginning of the season.
100%. And I think that showed. I think ultimately we deserved the win, I would say, overall, just. But we could have easily slipped up in that game. And I think to get the 3 points over the line is all that Jones will really care about at the end of the day. But it's lessons to learn again in terms of when you're sort of 2 up, whether you can then push on and really sort of turn the screw, because we haven't really been able to. The only game we've really done that in is the Blackburn game, and even then we left it quite late to get our third, right at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And it's maybe, can we get that sort of, if we go 2 up, especially in the first half, in that early part of the second half, we really need to push it on and try and kill the game, because that is ultimately, the Championship's such a tough league, and actually if a team gets a goal back, like you said, it really does change the nature of the games.
Do you think it all, though, sits on us putting the final nail in the coffin of going 3-0 up, 4-0 up? Or I do sometimes look at us and just think we could control games better when we're in those positions. And I think what we have a habit of doing, and it probably drops into what we do as a team and how we play, we don't play high possession football, and the problem with that is when you then start dropping deep, the other team does have quite a bit of the ball, and there is naturally quite a lot of pressure. And I just wonder if there is maybe parts of the game where we play the relatively quick counter game. Can we actually adapt that when we do take the lead to maybe just get our foot on the ball a little bit more and be a bit more sensible in games by taking the ball down, playing a bit of a slower game that maybe is out of character of what we normally do, but when you're in that position, we haven't got to push for the result. We've just got to solidify.
Well, also, you're exactly right. I think when we're 2-0 up, we've got that opportunity to sort of take our time a little bit more, and we don't need to be desperate to get that third. But at the same time, if you're keeping the ball, playing those sort of sensible passes, but then opening up gaps, because you're ultimately making them come onto you again to win the ball back, they're going to need to come and try and get a goal back. That's when you can really start picking off those passes, get the little threaded through balls in and stuff like that. So I definitely agree. The other thing that did frustrate me as well is in the early part of that second half, we had a couple of times where Sheffield Wednesday really pushing on to us, obviously trying to get that goal back. We'd win the ball back, and we had quite a strong sort of counter-attack on, and then it was just that final little through ball. I think Bree might have had one where we were sort of trying to get it out of that, and we pretty much had 2 or 3 players like bursting forward ready, and if that pass was correct, all of a sudden we're very good chance of getting that third one.
And it didn't have to be pinpoint, it was just not awful, and they were pretty terrible.
Because I think the percentage balls, aren't they, into the space, but then it's just those. It's really frustrating when they just manage to sort of catch, nick the ball, or when it's actually quite a simple pass.
Yeah, and that was the perfect opportunity in the game, because it was when they had to really push on to get that. Were less structured as it went into that first half, and the first half of the second half. Sorry, and we did have a couple of chances there, but
weren't that many though.
Wasn't that many, and I think I say that second half is definitely one that I think if hadn't have gone the way it had, we probably would be looking at it with a much more critical eye. I think we do have to take the main thing, which is that we
3 points.
Got the 3 points. So, so let's go into a little bit more detail just on the game then. So that first half again. I thought personally I thought the first 10 minutes it was quite a scrappy, bitty game.
It was.
We took a bit of time, but then I think we really started to turn the screw, take control of the game. I thought some of the passages of play we were putting together were really nice, defensively really solid, and the Sonny Carey goal. So obviously, I'll let you kind of take it.
I mean, the first bit of the play for that goal, I think Burke got a really good foot in, and obviously then managed to get us on the front foot for a sort of counter almost. Really good bit of play from Carey, played it out wide to Campbell, and then Campbell played it back to him. Little weavy run, nice little through ball, and then he's got such a good strike on him, hasn't he? He does hit them.
And also, I think with that, there's so many times where a player would take a few touches and the defender would close into them. And I think the fact that his initial thing was get the shot off first time, but there was another bit of that I was so impressed with, and it was after the shot, he was so off balance. He caught their defender and he persevered. And I think there are a lot of players who would have maybe gone down there, tried for a silly kind of little penalty or something, because there was a bit of a kind of shoulder barge into him, but it wasn't. It was just dedication. He had one thing on his mind, and even as much as it was a pretty easy finish, he was very off balance at that point.
He did have to lift it above the keeper, because if he goes low there, then who knows? The keeper could have got a hand to it, a leg to it. So he's lifted it over him and straight into the top corner. And I think you're right. He's very, very determined. You can tell he's desperate to sort of get as many goals as he can this season and just prove himself at that level. And he's definitely doing that. He's a really exciting player to watch. And he's a real front runner for. I think I tweeted something about him being a front runner for Player of the Year already this season so far. So let's hope he keeps that up. But
And the one thing I'll just remind every Charlton fan: free transfer.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, that's a great bit of business.
Yeah.
And actually, you only have to look at Blackpool. They're right. I think they're bottom now of League One. Obviously, we did poach probably 2 of their best players, which
Bruce will be cursing our name in his sleep.
Yeah, well, he's gone now as well. Bruce is gone. But yeah, I mean, we are looking really good in some certain positions this season, and that number 10 sort of attacking mid position under Carey.
Well, as I say, if you had said start first game of the season that he was going to be keeping Nibs out the squad, I think a lot of fans probably would have questioned that, and I think the fact he is pretty impressive. So, so the rest of the first half, I thought we pushed on really nicely. I think we had lots of, albeit not creating loads and loads of chances. I thought Bree especially was getting some
dangerous,
incredible deliveries in, and I think you might have thought these goals were a bit closer than they were, but 45+1 was.
Right at the end of the first half.
Yeah, so obviously got the free kick for Bree, and that ball in, I don't think you see many better.
I mean, yeah, if you wanted an example of sort of how to cross a ball in on a plate, that was it.
Prime De Bruyne put the same for City. Everyone's talking about it. It is such an incredible, and it's
consistent though as well, isn't it?
But the biggest thing of what he did there as well is he put it into a position where the keeper couldn't quite come for it. It just got right into the perfect spot and made it so. You still have to finish it, but made it so easy. But
you notice as well for Burke, like all he had to do was get his head on it. Like you don't even have to direct that header because you're so close to the goal that you just got to get any sort of contact on it. And that's the thing with Bree as well, is those deliveries are week in, week out. It's not just like a fluky.
Well, and I wonder over the course of a season, you're looking at a good 10, 11, 12 goals probably from those positions of that, if we can get him past January. But it does seem like it's a hell of a thing to have in your arsenal, especially for a team that kind of thrive on. We have got big defenders who can win headers, and if we can get those balls in, I think the only thing is how we can maybe implement that into our attackers a little bit better. Because I feel like there was quite a few times in that first half where I feel we were getting into very good positions, good balls into the box, but there maybe wasn't quite the movement, or I don't know what it quite was, but we just weren't quite getting on the end of.
Yeah, I think with Breeze crossing, he finds himself out wide. Obviously, he's playing on that right-hand side, so he gets plenty of opportunities to get the ball in the box. So then it's making sure that the strikers we've got on the pitch at the time are going to be in the right positions. And then obviously he takes our corners as well, which he's always on point with those as well. So we'll get more goals from corners this year as well, purely down to his deliveries. But.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a really important one. And it's also in games where you're not quite clicking. That can be a goal out of nowhere that just kickstarts the team. So, I think it's going to be a brilliant one to have this. 100%. So, so not to get too depressed, but let's move into that second half. I think we've touched on the main bulk of it. I thought they came out, they were pressing really well. We looked like we just couldn't quite deal with it. We looked not quite what we normally are. Lots of silly kind of giveaways of possession. And I felt in times where also they were relentlessly pressing us. I felt in opportunities we also had to just slow the game down, get the ball back. We just gave it back to them very quickly and getting caught again.
Also, like when you're 2-0 up, like we just mentioned previous, like you can actually spend a bit of time passing it around the back line and actually making them come onto you, and even if pinging it into the midfield.
Do you think there's an argument in that position that, for example, I know we instantly, and the subs that we were looking at making were pretty much the obvious of what we make most games now, Tanto, Lieben. Do you think there's an argument of maybe, for example, a Nibs coming on for someone like TC and packing out the centre of the midfield a little bit more, where we can maybe just get a hold on the ball a little bit more? I do wonder if that's just something that we could look at. And I know the problem at 2-0 is it's devil's advocate, because if you go then 2-1, or God forbid it gets back to 2-2, you could argue
why has he changed?
Yeah, why has he changed that we're now lacking in the attacking front? But I do just wonder, and I wonder if it also maybe highlights where, if it's not a Nibs because maybe that is a bit too attacking, whether we are maybe just lacking a little bit in that central midfield.
You've got Rankin Costello, who seems to always come on really late in the game. But he's a player that I know Blackburn fans really rated him, and he's quite sort of tenacious, good on the ball. He might be an option potentially. You have Anderson as well. I don't think he even was on the bench this weekend. But those sort of players maybe to, like you said, give us a bit more of a control in the middle of the park. Because also with players like Bannon, you had that Valorant, who I did think had a really good game. Actually, it was good. They're the sort of danger players that will create chances for them, and that's ultimately what happened. Bannon sort of weaved his way in the box, played it out to the edge of the box where there was quite a bit of space for the guy to hit the ball. And then obviously he smashed it.
Yeah, and I just wonder if you had Tanto, for example, up top with the pace, the strength, and then you had those midfielders behind, we'd still have that outlet for the counter with a little bit more behind the ball. And naturally, as much as you have the press up top, we will have more bodies in the middle of the field to press as well, especially in games like that where they were getting quite a lot of joy in that kind of middle of the park across the midfield.
That was probably where they were strongest, I think, that middle of the park. Like you said, they had that Ingleson guy and then Bannon and Valorant, and I think they were the three that were sort of controlling the game more in that second half. So yeah, it was frustrating to concede, and then obviously once we did concede, you like we've already mentioned before, you then are really on sort of a, because it could, if they had got a second, it could have come from anywhere, like a fluky sort of rebound or anything like that.
I mean, the goal wasn't anything to particularly write home about.
No.
Quite well played, but very fortunate in regards to the way it kind of bounced up.
And he was very borderline offside, I thought, actually. But he was, I think, on review, it was actually onside. But yeah, it was one of those where it was just lucky that it came out and fell to him.
Yeah.
And defensively, there's not a huge amount you could do. I don't think either a keeper or the defenders could.
I think the only thing you could maybe argue is the closing down on the initial shot was maybe not covering ourselves in glory, something we're very good at as well normally. Yeah, so and then after that, to be honest, they were pressing, but what I did think is we looked nervous after the goal went in, but I do think we started to get a foothold back in the game, and we kind of nullified it to a point where I don't think they really created too much clear cut. And I think if you were to go through actually the highlights after that of how many chances they created, there was a lot of pressure, but we defended that extremely well.
And there's been times where we've conceded and then been one up still, and I've been sweating bullets that we're going to concede. It didn't quite feel like that.
No.
I was most worried about us conceding a silly goal rather than them sort of really slicing us open.
Or in that game, because for me personally, a person that we don't always review, but someone I would in this one was the ref, and I felt something might happen there because I thought was pretty dreadful all game. And it probably goes into the final controversial point, which I was sitting in here watching the game on the TV, and I was apoplectic when I saw that he was trying to play it on.
Yeah.
And the fact that Tanto got absolutely wiped out, the most stonewall thing I've ever seen, and he just kind of put his hands up to play on. And the only reason he stopped the game, one was because they were both pretty badly injured, and he looked over to the linesman who called it. But what the hell was he looking at?
Well, also, I'm thinking, like, if he's not giving anything, well, two players have smashed into each other, so one person has got to be in the wrong there. Obviously, completely, Tanto's, like, nudged it round him, so the keeper coming out and clattering, and there's no other...
The only way a keeper gets away with that is if they get somehow on the ball, and then it's the follow-through.
Yeah.
But the fact Tanto has knocked it to the side, and he has absolutely levered him.
I'll say that it's bold to not give that decision in the home ground in front of the covered end. Like
the anger I had in that moment, I screamed at the top of my voice. And then, as I say, it looked like for everything he was not going to give anything. And then, fortunately,
it also looked like when I was watching it that some of the Wednesday players were sort of saying like, there's nothing's happened. Like
I think everyone looked shocked, surprised, didn't really know what was happening.
Obviously, it all ended up all right in the end.
Yeah, and strangely, probably, I know it was one of the last kicks of the game anyway, probably worked quite well in actually for us, just killing off any momentum that was possibly going to be there. And as I say, I do genuinely think the last kind of stages of the game, we did actually manage quite well. I thought we did some of the dark arts.
We were holding the ball in the box, in the corner, quite a bit, weren't we?
Yeah.
So it did kill the game.
Yeah, so I think overall as a game, it was frustrating. It was as nervy as it was, but also an incredible amount of pride in the fact we did get it over the line, because at the end of the day, that does now mean in our last 5 games, I think it's 3 wins, a draw and a loss, which is a really good run of form. In a probably games where we thought, these are games where we should be maybe picking up a few more points, and they were. I don't think there's any easy games in the league, but definitely games where I would hope we'd be picking up points. But
I saw a stat as well. I think it was Jones has had 35 games at the Valley since he's come in as manager. I think that's right. He's won 20, drawn 12, and lost 3. So the Valley is an absolute fortress.
Well, it has. It has. I think home records as they go, as say, the only one. Well, you look at it this season. The only reason we haven't still got our unbeaten run is because of the Leicester game, which is incredibly unlucky.
Yeah.
Every other game, I feel, and there's very few, if any, teams I would feel coming to the Valley I feel nervous about, because I do think it is somewhere we have now created that atmosphere. Crowds getting back up as well. I think it's a massively important thing.
The players seem to love playing there as well. You can tell, can't you? Like that they really enjoy playing in front of the home fans. Which obviously you got other teams out there at the moment, like Norwich, for example. Like their fans are obviously like up in arms because of what they're seeing. And I think that the fans at the Valley can see what Jones is putting in place, and that's why they're getting behind him.
When I compare it to, it would have been around about a year ago to now. I was sitting in the home end against, I think it was either, I want to say Mansfield or Macclesfield. I think we drew either 0-0, 1-1. It was an awful game, and it was just, I think it was the game before we then went and beat Northampton and went on, and that was when the start of the amazing run last year. If you had sat there right there and said we'd be looking at the kind of performances, the kind of atmosphere there of what we would have just a year later, you'd laugh it off.
Because there's another 23,000, wasn't it? Just over. So again, like the crowds are coming back, and it's creating a really, really good atmosphere at the ground. And actually, that can only be a good thing because we're playing well. So again, it's just getting behind the side, and the players will feed off that. And that's what you hear in the interviews from players all the time is they love playing there. So yeah.
Okay, well let's take that then from there to move on to the individual player performances then. So one to start on then, Kaminsky.
Yeah, I don't think he did much wrong again. Even for the goal, to be honest, there wasn't much wrong. He was unlucky in a way because the ball's come off the post and bounced over him.
I thought, I don't necessarily agree. I thought he looked the shakiest. I thought there's lots of games I've watched where I think he looks very... There's to be honest, most games, there's not been huge levels of things to do. I thought there was quite a few times where he just, as much as he saved the ball or whatever, I just think he looked a bit edgy, and there was shots that came into him and he just kind of fumbled it a little bit.
There was one actually. You're right. Yeah. I think one of their players took a bit of a shot from range, and he sort of, I thought for a minute he'd gone through his.
Yeah, I just there was something in that game where I felt. I mean, he was outshone by the fact that the Sheffield Wednesday keeper was absolutely diabolical, and I think anything would make you look like a Rolls Royce in that game, but. It was the first game where I watched him and I just thought, I don't know, he did, to me, just felt a little bit off. Didn't feel, once again, didn't have huge levels to do in regards to important saves, a lot of pot shots.
Maybe though, that's why sometimes that happens, especially with sort of someone of his quality, because obviously we know how good he is, and shot stopping is probably his best quality, I would say. And he's very commanding of his box, which is a nice thing to have. But
I thought there was a few times as well, in that game, he had one where, I think it was offside in the end, and I think it was, I want to say it was I think it was Jamal Lowe who was running through, and he kind of went for it and then really backed off when I think he could have quite comfortably got it. And if it hadn't have been offside and it was very marginal, Lowe would have been in on goal.
Yeah.
And I just thought there's some weird decision making. It just felt a little bit erratic, a little bit maybe some of the traits you don't really want from a keeper in the game.
Yeah, I think. I can't,
without making a
I can't recall too many big shots he had to save in that game, to be fair.
But I mean, these are all small things, but they were just signs that I'm quite glad it maybe wasn't a game where he was being tested more and more, because I just thought it was maybe a game where he was, even though they were small examples, for the first time I felt, oh my God, is this going to be the game where he does have a bit of a stinker, a bit of a tough performance?
That's a pretty middle of the road performance from him. Yeah, nothing to sort of.
Nothing ended up with any worries, and I just thought of all the games I normally sit here saying I felt very confident behind him, and it's the only game where I felt a little bit less.
Yeah, maybe fair.
So let's move on to the back line. So I thought it was interesting because when the squad came out the back line, I wasn't sure what to expect.
Yeah, because you had Ramsey on the bench.
Yeah, and seeing Ramsey on the bench obviously was an interesting one. So let's move through the centre-backs, sir. So we'll start with Gillespie.
Yeah, so Gillespie, I think, obviously he's come in through injury. Well, through injury, obviously, of Edwards.
Edwards with the Mari Bell movement.
Yeah, so I think he's still slightly getting up to speed, I'd say, in terms of sort of real match fitness, maybe. And I think that shows at times. I think he's never been the quickest defender, has he?
No.
So I think we saw a couple of examples. One in particular I recall was their I think it was their winger or striker was sort of almost got through 1-on-1 with him. And you can see he was just about to get burned.
You see a bit of a panic.
Yeah, and you can tell he's not got that engine to really catch up with them. But what he did do really well was which he's done a few times in the past, is he uses his sort of nous and manages to sort of push them off balance a little bit before they get the cross or the shot away. And he managed to do that really well. And then you've always got that element with Gillespie of that ball that he loves to play over the top, the sort of cross-field.
Yeah, and you can tell that's definitely something tactically when he is in the squad that we want to take advantage of, because he has got a good ping. He will push it into good areas. They are a numbers game majority of the time, but they are impressive.
He only needs one, doesn't he?
Well, no, exactly, and it's a good thing to have in your arsenal. Also, as well, with that back line, we've got people who aren't afraid of goals in set-piece areas as well. Gillespie, obviously, we know, has brought some brilliant goals and brilliant moments.
One in particular.
Yeah, one in particular. But he does also have that side of the game. Obviously, we'll go on to, but with Burke as well, Jones, it's actually quite dangerous on that side of that. And I think he does bring in a bit to the game. And I think one of the things that's interesting is you bringing up is that kind of part of his game that is quite clever, and even
quite wily, isn't it?
And I think we saw it, and a great example we saw of it, and I don't know why I was watching about the other day, but it was the second leg against Wickham in the playoffs, and he did a very, very similar thing to Kone.
Yeah, I remember.
And actually, I think you underestimate in those moments how important that is, because that is the difference between that striker getting a clean shot that the keeper might have no chance of, or them it might not be that they skew it wide, but actually they just hit it more central to the keeper. It takes a bit of power out, whatever it might be. So I think it's a very important part.
I would say he had a decent game. Like the things that he needed to do, he did pretty well. Like I say, he brings that element of that sort of cross-field pass that we always like to see from him.
No, I thought a good game. Lloyd Jones.
Yes, I don't know.
He doesn't miss a header. It's so lovely, though, because at that point where we were quite under pressure and when the ball was coming in, just knowing that it just seems whoever he's up against, you'll just get that big lump of a header back up. A little bit, I haven't seen him as much in the attacking positions in this game. I thought it was something that
we really hadn't. Actually, second half, we didn't really have that much in terms of attacking.
No, true.
But I think with him, you are guaranteed a solid performance, and not only that, he dominates the players he comes up against. Like you said, aerially, I don't think there's many better in the league.
No,
I genuinely don't. And I think I saw as well, like before the international break, they did who scored team of the season so far, and he was one of the centre backs in that. His ratings overall are right up there, and that is because he's so solid
and he's so consistent with it as well. And that's what I think is so impressive, is the fact that every week we kind of know what we're going to get with him, and very rarely does he have an average game. I mean, generally speaking, every single game he's winning every single header. He's solid. The only time I can think all season was I think it was the QPR game where he had the lad running up against him and he looked like he had lead feet a little bit. It's the only moment I can think all season.
He's not blessed with absolute lightning pace for a centre back. You get some centre backs that are really quick. He's not one of those. But what he does do is he is so physical that even if he's got coming up against like a really quick striker, he'll get right tight up to him, he'll bully them, and like I say, in the air, I can't think of a better centre back in the division.
And I noticed that's something I think all of the centre backs are doing really well. Actually, was they have got this incredible with the press that we have in the team, of one or two of them pushing in really tight to a player.
That's how Burke managed to get the ball back for the first goal. And you're right, they all seem to do that.
But it seems like they have a really good unit where, as I say, if one of them is, then the other one kind of seems to be covering over. So if they do miss it,
a jigsaw.
Yeah, and occasionally we do. I mean, occasionally you do press out, and it's if you miss that tackle, then they've just got this synergy between the defence that's really important. And I think where we are becoming so solid is we're just causing really difficult. There's not many teams who will get time on the ball.
What's nice with that as well, which you said about like the sort of synergy in the back line, is even if players are coming in and out, or like you've got Gillespie coming in who's not necessarily been in the team for very long, they still manage to slot into that sort of system, which is really nice.
Nothing feels like a huge downgrade, albeit there's traits in each player. So move on to the final one of the back, the centre backs, Burke.
Yeah, so Burke, I was right up there for man of the match, in my opinion. I think he actually had the highest rating out of all of our players. So I mentioned that he was the one that sort of came in with a really nice little foot in to win the ball for the first goal. Obviously got a goal, which as a defender, they're rare, aren't they? So any goal he can get, I'm sure he'll take. But he's just, I actually for the first time realised how big he is actually, like in terms of he's bloody tall. Which means again we've got another aerial threat. So he's very good at winning headers, but he's also quite composed, I think, on the ball. I think he's one of those players that he does. I didn't notice he does go on those little runs out of defence, and again, he's one of those that sometimes you're like, oh, he's gone a bit far here.
I think with him, there's some centre backs you watch come out and you think, yeah, I feel quite confident. He's always one where I'm like,
the touch can be a bit off sometimes.
Yeah, it's quite industrial.
But in terms of like, he's in predominantly he's in the team to keep the ball out of the net, and I think defensively, as a sort of player that's come into the team fairly new to the team, he's come in and done a really good job.
Played a lot more minutes than I thought. In regards to, I thought it was going to be a lot more of maybe struggling, especially because of his fitness concerns over the years and injury record. But it seems like with him, maybe it is because it's someone that Jones knows. He's also had a very good record of injuries so far.
Yeah, it's good.
That maybe he just knows how to manage it quite well.
Also, he's kept Ramsey out of the team. And obviously, since Ramsey had that red card, he's not been able to get back in because Burke's come in and done a really good job.
Do you think that's because of how good a job the centre-backs have been doing, or do you think there is a bit of Jones
teaching him a lesson?
I really do feel that.
Yeah, I do as well.
And also as well, we did try Ramsey in that left-back role. I think it was against Preston, and I don't think it massively personally worked. I thought what we had in this game did work better with Gillespie in, and
I think there is an element of him teaching Ramsey a lesson. You can see Ramsey's desperate to get back into the side, and it does prove a point as well that if you do something silly like that, it can really impact your position in the starting 11. Because if someone comes in like Burke, realistically, Burke's done nothing to suggest that he needs to be dropped now. Albeit, like, is Ramsey a better player than Burke? I would argue yes. And I think he brings a little bit more in terms of like that attacking element, the pace, all that stuff, which we know Ramsey's so good at. But Burke does bring a different element that is a bit more physical, taller, a bit more, probably can bully his man a bit more. So there's a different, although he's not they're different types of players. So maybe also Jones is looking at the different matchups that we've got, the teams we come up against, and trying to assess it that way. But I think Ramsey will eventually just come back in.
I still think on paper, full fitness, it's probably that back line of Edwards, Jones, Ramsey,
Bell.
And Bell. That would be my gut feeling. And then on the right, at the moment, Bree, but that's probably the most open position. I'd say those four, if you would say our actual on-paper best, that would probably be my gut feeling. But I think Burke has done a brilliant game. And
probably his best game.
But like everything, we probably have got that position as well, which is he knows once, if performances drop, Ramsey is there ready to take over. So it creates this competition we've got in the squad. I think
so good.
Yeah, incredible. So, so let's move on to the kind of wing backs on this one then. So start off with Amari Bell.
Yeah, Bell, another player that I really enjoy watching him. I think it's the fact that he's very athletic and he's very sort of, he doesn't mind taking his man on.
He's more athletic than I thought he'd be before he came. I wondered, looking at age and the fact that maybe what other fans had said about him, he'd lost a kind of yard of pace. I hadn't seen him here before, but he still seems really athletic, really strong, really, really experienced head. I think of all the signings we've signed, he in moments has the coolest head.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And don't get me wrong, I've been quite vocal about the fact that I worry sometimes that might come and backfire, but I'd say what he's proving so far is maybe I haven't got anything to worry about, because he does seem very, very experienced. And
I think you're bang on with that. And I think as well, like when there's always those moments where one of your defenders sort of holds onto the ball a bit too long at the back. Some players you really worry. With him, I think I feel quite calm when he's got the ball. I'm not too concerned, and he always seems to manage to either play the ball back across the back line, or he'll play it into the midfield. He's got a good calm head on his shoulders, and I think that really shows. And it's nice to have that in the team, because like I say, it gives you a confidence that you can sort of play it out from the back, or he'll go on a little run down the wings. And there's quite a few times he was overlapping again, which is really nice to see with Campbell down that left-hand side.
And even if that's just creating space for players to then run into, whatever it is.
Yeah, so he does push up the pitch, and he's still got the quality to cross the ball in when he gets those opportunities as well.
Yeah, and I actually, what maybe the injury to Edwards has given me a bit more confidence in is, I'd say of the whole squad, the left back was probably my biggest worry, that if Edwards, either through suspension, injury, whatever it might be, was lost, I wasn't sure Amari Bell still had it in his locker to play out on the wing back role, and I think
proven he has.
To me, I don't feel huge downgrades, albeit I'm a huge Josh Edwards fan, and I can't wait to see him slot back into the squad. But to know we do have that position covered when needed, I think is a really brilliant one to know, and that is also some of the bits of Gillespie stepping up, because that's allowed him to go out wide rather than maybe a headache.
Oh, I wonder as well if Bell's actually enjoying playing that slightly more, because before he wouldn't have been playing that position, would he? So he's probably quite enjoying the fact that he's able to have a bit more free reign going forwards. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. So move on to the right, and I think quite an interesting one actually. Bree.
Yeah, I mean, Bree's predominant role in that team now seems to be just deliveries.
Seems to be on that almost halfway between the edge of the box and the halfway line. He picks it up around there, teeters around for someone to drop it in, and him. I mean, there is no doubting that boy has got Premier League quality in regards to crossing.
I think Jones said that, I saw him say that of all the players he's ever sort of managed or coached, he said he is probably the best crosser of the ball, and he said, bear in mind, he's managed James Ward-Prowse, who's probably one of the best crossers of the ball that's been in the Premier League for a while. When he gets the ball in those positions, he is lethal. And I think, like, obviously that second goal was on a plate, as we've already talked about. And having that quality to be able to sort of produce those sort of chances is going to be invaluable. I just hope we can keep him for the rest of the season, to be fair. But
I do as well, and I think it's a really difficult one with him as well, because I feel so sorry at the moment for Apter, who I think did nothing wrong, but there's no way you can't really bring him out of the squad, and the only reason you could, for me, that was maybe highlighted in this game more so than others, is I thought I always thought he was maybe a bit more defensively minded with being an incredible crosser of the ball. To me, I thought the second half there were a few moments where, one, he gave away this ball silly, which was a bit frustrating, but you can kind of forgive him for the crosses that came in. But I thought he highlighted at some points that defensively maybe isn't the strongest part of his game. And
I don't think that's...
I think if Apter was more defensively minded, there would be a question, you could say, in some games. But I think because they are both maybe not defensively minded, you just have to go on the form, and I feel sorry for Apter, but that's the one criticism I would say of Bree. I thought he was a bit disappointing second half. It did frustrate me when he gave away the ball, because clearly he has the ability as well, so it did seem like it was just a bit frustrating more than anything, because I thought the second half it was probably the poorest side of him I've seen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think defensively he's maybe nowhere near as sort of eye-catching as he is when he gets forward. I almost see him as more of a midfield player than you do a defensive player.
And that's kind of what we do in the system, don't we? Because I think when we attack, we kind of drop into more of a back four with your Amari Bell, Gillespie, Jones, Burke, or that kind of more setup with whoever's on that right. Because it is either Apter or Bree; they are both more attacking. It's quite a fluid formation.
I think he's given a bit more license to sort of get himself forward and get him in those positions. And also, one thing I will say of Bree is when the ball gets knocked out wide, you're always looking, is like, oh, is that Bree? Because you know a great cross is coming in. And actually, that's what I find myself doing, like, pretty much every time I watch us now. Is like, oh, it's Bree out there ready to sort of cross it in. And if it's not Bree, I'm like, oh, get it to Bree. Like,
you know, the more we learn that that's such a tool, the more as well, I'm assuming we are going to start as well, maybe tactically throughout the week, looking at how can we actually take advantage of this better and get on the end of these crosses. And that might be, for example, your Kelmans, who maybe positionally are going to change the way they're playing, if that is something, because beforehand we were maybe doing more of your Apter sprinting down the wing, and it might be that we have to adapt to a slightly different, if he is going to be someone who is now becoming more of our starting kind of right winger, right mid, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, no, overall very good performance. So, albeit a little bit disappointing with the second half, but I'll let him off. I think probably can quite quickly move through these two, because I think centre of the park here, it was okay, nothing good, nothing
Yeah.
bad. Coventry to start with.
Yeah, I think Coventry. Again, he does that role really really well. Like he runs really hard. He harries people. He has had games in the past that he's been a bit more expansive, and I think we've spoken about that in the last maybe few games he's played, where he's sort of had a bit more opportunity to maybe get a shot away or play a sort of through ball. We didn't really see that, I don't think, as much.
No, maybe it just was one of those. One of the things I have noticed with these, and it's Coventry, and obviously we'll go into next Doherty, but one thing I've noticed with them, and probably also in Sunny Carey, is one thing they are doing really, really well and is getting more and more, is the little passes between them to break up. And I noticed quite a few times where it was being passed around defence triangles and then breaking into the midfield rather than lumping it every time. And I think we're starting to see it a little bit more.
Trying to play it through.
We're actually breaking through the lines. And I think between them, even if it is not kind of expansive passing, it's actually quite quick, dynamic passing that is creating space. And I think I said it a few games ago, we're starting to see a little bit more of it. I would like to see more of that into our game. And I think it's something where maybe Jones sees that as the end goal. But there definitely is little signs of it. I think with Coventry as well, one thing I noticed in the game was he's so known for his kind of dogged, really pushing up. He got a yellow card in this first 10 minutes, and he ripped down the man, and it was. I thought it was a good that he did it.
No,
I was
the
in a
right
dangerous position, but
yeah.
I kind of felt from there, whenever you've got a hold in mid, it makes it so difficult because he can't get tight to players.
No.
He can't make any silly mistakes. There's a lot of players who will quite easily be looking at him as the person to
also
off.
He would have probably, one of his main jobs would have been to sort of keep Barry Bannon quiet, and Bannon's a tricky little customer, and if he clips him or pulls him back, second yellow, you're right, it changes the game completely.
I think that had quite a big impact on his performance of not being able to maybe do what he normally does, because it was so early. I mean, if that happened in the 60th, 70th minute, different story, but so early on,
that's a good point to make.
Yeah, I thought it had quite an impact. So moving on to the next one, Doherty.
Yeah, I just as a captain, I've just really sort of learned to love him, actually, in terms of the way he just conducts himself.
I don't think there's many players within 10 games. The first game of the season and the first few, I was so against and didn't really have much of a, not that I disliked him as a player, I always thought he came across well, but there was no particular affiliation to me. If I had never seen him play in a Charlton shirt again, I'd have been okay with that.
Yeah.
I think similar to you, I'm actually really starting to like him as well. There's a few players in that squad, and I think probably Josh Edwards, Sonny Carey, Greg Doherty, who have the character, but also just the passion. You can tell he loves the club.
Yeah.
And I can, as I say, we say it every week at the moment, but I can so easily see why he's club captain, which is something I hadn't been able to see in the past.
I do think he really does play for Jones. I think Jones brought him in and sort of said to him, right, you're going to be a key part of this team. Obviously made him captain. And I think he's really thrived under that sort of confidence that he's been given from the management all the way sort of into his game on the pitch. And I think we have seen him grow so much even in this season, because he's obviously coming up against higher level players this season. But his work ethic, his sort of drive, the way he pushes the team on, he works so hard. And I think as fans, we say it all the time, but that's all really we want to see, is obviously quality goes a long way. But if you can just give your all for the shirt, I don't really, apart from Jones, he's the natural captain for that team. Just the way he is as a character and the way he plays.
And I'd say at the moment, I mean, I couldn't think of anyone else apart from him, because I say I think what he brings to that. Also, just as I say, the work ethic, when players aren't, as I think we said it in one of the games recently where everyone else was looking poor, he was still putting a shift in.
Yeah.
He's still probably one of our better players. And I thought it was probably on of all the games of recent where I think he's had a bit more maybe involvement, a bit more impact. I thought it was one of his quieter games on that front, but still, as I say, nothing bad to say. And I thought an overall pretty okay game.
Yeah, very solid.
So let's move on to from there then. Sonny Carey.
Yeah, the ginger genius. He just goes from strength to strength, and again, it's like broken record territory. We talk about like Jones and how well he does in the air. Carey, you could argue, is the same with his shots from distance. He's so good at like those sort of just.
And he's just not afraid to. He catches them well, but I mean, if you put together this season, he's probably had more shots than anyone else in the squad, but also pretty good efforts.
Yeah.
And he seems to always catch the ball pretty well. And you look in that first half, I think also his movement, his willingness to run at players. I didn't expect that as a player when he came in. I didn't expect to see him as a player who'd pick up the ball and run. He's not as slow as I thought he'd be. I thought he's actually pretty quick, and I think some of that actually doesn't always come down to just his raw pace, but the way he runs with
determination
the ball
as well.
No, but I also think the way he runs with the ball, he has really quite kind of close control of the ball.
Yeah.
And sometimes actually that can be as dangerous.
He's technically he's very, very good, and actually to be able to strike a ball hard accurately, some of the goals he's scored already this season have been great. But he is that player we've been crying out for so long. We've spoken about it. That number 10 where he just has a bit of free rein to sort of drop into that pocket, get shots off willy-nilly, which he's doing, and a lot of those are going in because he's got such a good strike on him. And the goal, obviously, that he ended up getting was the only reason he scored was because of his determination to get to the ring.
He's got to take every bit of responsibility for that. As I say, the fact he had the kind of balls just to take the shot first time and actually create a chance, but then also to follow it. As I say, to follow it up, not go down, get the balance back, finish it. For me, it was as much as the run beforehand was very impressive from TC. In the pass, I thought the pass was okay. It wasn't the most stunning of passes. From there, everything is down to Sonny Carey, and I also think when we look at the second half, he was the only one who really had a chance going into that second half once again in that
strike.
Running into the attacking position, jinking in and out, and strike pretty central to the keeper. But
hit it well though.
Yeah, he hit it well, and I thought the second half probably wasn't a game that suited because of the way we were playing, and he did go more kind of missing in the second half. But
well, he ended up getting man of the match. I think he was voted man of the match, and I think he has been consistently very, very good for us. He's had the very odd occasion where he's been a bit quieter in the game. That's generally when we're being played off the park a little.
Yeah, and I think it's more down to the game.
Not so much on him. And even when we're not on top in terms of the attacking, he still works really hard, runs back. He tries to win the ball back. He's such a likeable character to have in the team, and he's becoming a massive fan favourite, isn't he?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, so let's move on to then TC.
Yeah, I think TC, again, he did offer us that one moment of quality when we obviously got the chance for Carey. I think he definitely didn't have one of his best games. I'm not sure if he was a bit jaded from coming back from his international duty. I don't know what quite... With him, there's often times where I'm like, is he a bit ill? I can't work out whether it's just that he's having an off day, whether there's a reason behind it. I'm not saying that he had a dreadful game. And he does still he is in that team for the very reason what we saw was he's able to run at players, weave in and out. He played a nice through ball to Carey. Obviously, it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't anything sensational, but it did play him in. And I think those moments where he fronts up his man, that's where he's at his best. And maybe we didn't have so much of that, especially second half. We didn't have barely any of that. So
no, and I thought I think where I'd maybe air a little bit of criticism to him is I think in the first half there's a few times where balls were played to him and he just we've discussed it quite a few times, consistency throughout a game where he gets the ball kind of caught. Well, no, but it's not even that. He just gets the ball caught up in his feet. He doesn't quite get away with it. He can be a bit wasteful with passes sometimes where it's just quite simple stuff that's just frustrating because we're on an attack. I think the thing I find with TC that's interesting is exactly what you say. I don't think he had his greatest game, and I was calling for him at the point he kind of came off. I thought probably looking towards the end of the first half, I could see a world where he came off first half, albeit not first half, sorry, at the beginning of the second half.
Yeah.
I didn't think James was going to do that, but I was definitely calling for him to come off by the end because I thought he did look really leggy, really jaded, and he wasn't really bringing much to the game. But in that first section, you're so right. The one thing he does bring is in that one moment, and if you're waiting for that one moment where he does just beat a man, get down, cross it in, you can tell defenders are scared to death of him. And I think sometimes when he comes off, you notice it sometimes a little bit more. That maybe there is that side of it that I think Tanto is more of that physical bully runner, but I don't think he. Maybe it's a bit too, but it doesn't bring it in the same way.
That might be a physique thing because I think those players that have low centres of gravity, like essentially TC is very small. So like in terms of like he's quite slight, he's able to weave in and out, and I think when he's also got quick feet, he is very dangerous when he fronts his man up, and I think he also a bit unpredictable at times.
Yeah.
Like you don't know whether he's going to run down the wing, whether he's going to cut inside, all that sort of stuff. So he brings a bit of that sort of unpredictability in terms of what the defender doesn't quite know what he's going to do. And I think that can always create trouble.
And do you sometimes, I think with wingers, it's probably one of the easiest ones to be the most critical of, because you are maybe relying on them, especially a winger like TC, to do stuff that's pretty special sometimes, of running around, beating a man, jinking in, jinking out. And realistically, actually, even with your top wingers in the world, a lot of the time throughout a game, they do a lot of poor stuff.
Yeah.
Not everything clicks. And you're actually having him in the squad for a moment.
And that is that's why Jones plays him consistently, is because he's there for that one moment in a game where he can just beat his man. All of a sudden you're in, and you just need a good pass across the goal, or he'll have a shot himself. But yeah, those moments are the reason he's in the team, and he did show that obviously for the first goal that we scored. But I think after that we didn't see a huge amount of him in the game.
No,
and I think maybe that's why then you think, actually, did he have a great game? Maybe it's just because we didn't see so much of him and give him those opportunities. I don't know.
Would you look at it with any concern over? I think one of the other things that I think has to improve at some point, and albeit there's a lot of people maybe in the squad we could look at this, but the stats, the assists and goals do need to.
You can guarantee that, like, at the start of the season, he would have been given some target. Jones would have said to him, right, I want you to get like 5, 6, 7 goals this season. I want you to get X amount of assists. And I think you're right. Like, he does start to need to produce on a higher sort of scale.
Output.
And I think we're only 10 games in, and I think he is gonna hopefully push on, albeit we're going to come up against some really tough sides, and Wednesday might be one of those teams that really could have been got at, because they've got some young defenders. So maybe in those games we'd like to see him be a bit more energetic, a bit more sort of pushing on forwards and things like that.
And I think with TC, the one argument I would flip to that is that the output is brilliant. It's lovely to have a player who has 10 assists, 8 goals, whatever it might be. I do wonder with TC how many, not assists he gets, but by getting into a dangerous position and crossing the ball in, and then it's like the second or third play from there, but having got us into that dangerous position or whatever it is, the amount of indirect assists he almost gets, where it's not...
Stats can be quite misleading.
So like, for example, he might cross it in, someone else headers it on, and then that's the goal. And I do think with TC, he does have a hidden part of his game sometimes, that where maybe the stats, maybe he's never going to be a kind of, okay, you're really attacking winger who's going to get 10, 11, 12 goals in a season and loads of assists, but he brings enough to that team that actually, if we didn't have him in it, we'd probably all be going, oh, we really need someone pacier, we really need someone trickier. And actually, on a lot of those, I think in the Championship step up, in glimpses, we've seen what he can do. My main thing is I just want to see a little bit more consistency, but he's young.
He is young, and I do think he is a crucial cog in like the Jones wheel, because actually without him, like you said, like who then steps in and who gives us that sort of element of sort of threat up in that sort of area of the pitch. And he is a really good player. I'm hoping that he'll just get better and better as his career goes on.
I think the hope is as he gets older that he fine tunes certain bits to his game, and that's not to become the most perfect player, but I do just think there's little decision making. I think sometimes as well, maybe because I notice as a character, he's quite, when you see him in interviews and stuff, he's quite a laid back, reserved guy, and I wonder sometimes whether that sometimes filters into his game, where he's so almost like nonchalant about playing sometimes, that is where he makes little mistakes, and sometimes maybe just a bit more focused on that first touch, the turn, or whatever it is that maybe.
He's Jamaican.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
Easy for us to say as well. But yeah, no. Okay, well, yeah, no, as I say, I thought not a bad game. Was involved in an important moment, so can't criticise too much. And then the final one, which is a very interesting one as we speak week by week, Charlie Kelman.
Yeah, again, arguably one of his best games again. I think he's getting better. We've said it for the last couple of weeks now. He's getting better and better. I'm just gutted he couldn't get his goal. I mean, like, every week our fans are just begging him to get that goal.
It felt like there was the moment in that.
Well, he had the moment. Yeah. One thing I will say is he did incredibly well to get in front of his man, because obviously he was played in over the top and he got in front of his man. So either the defender was going to take him out and he was going to obviously get a foul and probably the man getting sent off. Obviously, that didn't happen. He managed to sort of keep on his feet. And to be fair, the defender got an amazing recovery tackle in. I think 9 times out of 10 the defender probably doesn't get to that, and actually he had got a good strike away, he just blocked it. That was his big moment in the game, but apart from that, it's the sort of unglamorous parts of the game where you're playing people in, you're hassling their defender to get someone else into position. That's what he's becoming better and better.
I thought his link-up play was incredible. And I thought, you look at it, I mean, the link-up play, and a great example we saw of it was in the Derby game, where I think we're starting to see more of it. But I thought in this game we saw even more of that, the dropping deep, and the willingness to actually not want to be the centre of attention and having to just stay on the last man because you want the goal. The fact he is willing to do that, and the realistic side is, if that's opening up space and meaning, look, to me, I don't care. Well, I don't know if I'd say I don't care. I'd like to see him start to get goals, and I think he will.
He will.
I've seen a lot of players that when they come, they don't score, and they're not bringing much. Where you're like, have we got a dud here? I really don't think we have. I think we've actually signed a really good player who does need a goal, but actually we're maybe starting to see, we signed him thinking League One top scorer, that's what he's going to be, and actually bringing a lot more. And if because of what he's doing, that brings a defender out and means that creates space for Bree to cross in, it creates space for TC to get in, Sonny Carey to push on past him, and we're getting a goal from there. I don't care if it's him or if he's creating the space to call.
Yeah, not only that, he's stretching the back lines, because he obviously, like I say, he got that one where it was played in over the top, and that's where he's very good. Because, like you say, even if he's not the one that's getting on the end of the final ball, he is the one that's stretching their defence, and he's quick. And as a defender, you're going to have to watch him closely, because if you give him a yard, he's got the pace to get in behind you. So he's naturally, whatever happens, going to be drawing defenders away to give other players space. And that's what we've seen him doing quite regularly now. And like I say, it's not really something that you get massively praised for, because it's not the glamorous side. It's not the goals. It's not the assists. But what it does do is it opens the pitch up massively for the other players around him. And ultimately, those games that we're sort of saying, it's a shame he didn't get a goal, we're getting 3 points in those games. So if we're getting the 3 points and he's playing a big part in that, then we can't really argue.
Well, and I think the comparison a lot of people have said is to last year, Godden, and the fact he started the season without the goals. Now, what I would argue to that as the counter argument is, I think at the time a lot of people felt sorry for Godden, because I think he's obviously older. Yeah. He's not necessarily as much on the link-up play, and I think a lot of people just felt sorry for the fact he wasn't getting the delivery, wasn't getting the kind of product behind him. With Kelman, I actually think it's a different conversation we're having, which is actually we are really impressed with what he's bringing the team. Yeah. But the goals kind of do need to come eventually, but I don't think, as I say, that's not maybe the same conversation. I think I'm actually more coming away from that comparison to Godden, because I do think actually he is bringing a lot to the squad, and he's becoming quite an important player for us, as much as I'd just love him just to get that one goal, just to get people off him.
100%. But the other thing I will say as well is, if he's obviously, as a striker, you're predominantly there to score goals. That's essentially what you're there to do. But if people weren't happy with him, he would be getting hammered, and people would be like, we need to drop him. But I didn't see many people saying that, because they're seeing that other thing that he brings to the game. Yeah. So ultimately, although he's not bringing the goals, he is bringing other elements to the pitch that are obviously really important in the way that Jones wants to set up. And also, that's the reason Jones is still starting him week in, week out, is because he's bringing something to that team, albeit not the goals yet, but fingers crossed. I think they will come.
Yeah. So let's move through the subs. I think similar to other weeks, I don't think there was huge impacts in the subs this week, albeit maybe the latter ones a little bit more. But first of all, in the 61st minute, we had Tanto and Leeburn coming on. So we'll quickly go into Tanto first.
Yeah, Tanto, what I really like when he comes on is he brings that real sort of burst of energy, pace, physicality. And at a time in the game when their defenders are starting to get a bit tired, you can see he's also got, I noticed he's got a very quick acceleration. So he doesn't take much to, like, if he gets a little bit of space, he sort of bursts into the space.
That took a couple of seconds, because he had the one where he got away from the boy and he took a little jinking run, and you just saw this acceleration where it's like,
he's quick, isn't he?
Yeah, it's like the jet engines just went off and the boy had to drag him down. But
it's him getting off. I think one of the commentators mentioned it as well. It's like it's his starting sort of pace, like off the mark. He's very quick to sort of get away, and once you're in front of your man and you've got that extra pace to sort of burn, you're down the pitch. That gets
Yeah.
you up the pitch.
Well, and that's where, when I was discussing earlier about him maybe coming on in those setups of maybe one more midfield with him as the lone striker, that is where you could still get the ball in behind.
He'd create danger, wouldn't he?
He'd create danger, and he has got that pace and that kind of acceleration more so than your Kelman or even Lieberton. I thought he didn't show a bad account for himself. I don't think there was too much, and it was a horrible game. We weren't massively creating loads of chances, but then you look at what he did. He obviously had the last minute where he ran through.
And if that's earlier in the game and we get their keeper sent off, then it changes the game massively.
So I think he had a good impact on the game, albeit a tough game for him to come into. And the other one, Miles Lieberton.
Yeah, I think Miles gets brought on predominantly for his physicality. Now, we've mentioned many times of how good his feet are and things like that, and he's got a bloody good finish on him as well. We haven't seen so much of that in the last few games. I think this game in particular was a tough one because we weren't exactly sort of dominating that second half. We were looking like to bring those players on was to try and change the game a little bit, and I think the way that Miles plays, he is very much a sort of win the flick on, get someone else in, and then he might pop up with a goal from another sort of situation.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you...
I thought Miles at the beginning of the season looked like he had a real bit between his teeth. He looked really fit, really wanting kind of to prove a point. I don't think it's quite clicked as much as maybe what we'd hoped, and I think that maybe shine of those first few games has come off. I find him sometimes a little bit frustrating. I know we've discussed in the past quite a few times, but one of my thoughts towards him is for someone who is very athletic, very strong, I sometimes find him a bit of a whinger. He goes down a lot. I find that sometimes I understand that's maybe what he's coming on for, and you could argue it's the dark arts, and he's trying to win these 3 kicks when he comes on, but I sometimes find him a little bit too frustrating. And I find sometimes actually he does it in times where actually if he had stayed in his feet and not gone down, he maybe still could have pressed and caught the ball or whatever. My gut feeling at the moment, and I've put my neck on the line on this one, I've thought it for a little while now, and as much as I love Lieberton, I've just got a gut feeling as time goes on he's not going to be up for it.
Do you think?
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to.
You know, the one thing about his game that I actually really do like is, and sometimes it almost, when you're watching him, it looks as if when he's beaten his man, that he's sort of done it by accident, that he sort of bumbled through. But I think actually what he is very good at is people don't, especially defenders, don't expect his feet to be so good for his size. No. And I think he does. I think there were moments last year where, and also his finishing is quite good when he gets into those sort of final third positions where he can sort of get a bit of space to take a shot off. What I think is crucial for him this season is to get either a run in the side, a bit more of a consistent run, because it is difficult to come off the bench. You do have, I think for strikers it can be quite tough to sort of get into the game sometimes.
Yeah. Well, let's say my views towards it aren't always completely at him either. I think that his injury record and what he's been hampered with in his development is the reason why I'm not 100% sure he'll make to where I maybe one day hope.
There's definitely a player there though, isn't there?
I think there is. I really think there is a player, but I just worry. I don't know. I think you've hit the nail on the head for what my worry is of him moments. And I think you see little glimmers and you think, oh my God, this could be. But I just don't see it enough. And I see then also other sides of the game, which I find very frustrating. And I just don't know if I see the moments and the quality of a player who could be probably bloody Premier League player.
Yeah.
But they're so minimal, the glimpses, and I find him frustrating.
He's at a sort of cornerstone a little bit in terms of, is he going to really push on, or is he going to sort of... Because he's young as well. We do forget he is still quite young. I know he's getting on a bit now, like he's getting older, and he's played in our team for quite a while. I think he's over 100 games. Or
on a bit.
Yeah. Getting on a bit. 21. That's wild. No, he's getting on a bit in terms of the amount of games he's played for us. But what I will say is he now is playing at a championship level, where you will get found out if you can't bring those elements of quality to your game, then you start to...
I wonder at 21 whether we're in the prime position, and I think it's a really difficult one because I don't know if he'd be happy with it. I just wonder if like a League One loan for a season would have been like the perfect opportunity for him just to go and get like a pretty good goal scoring season. And I don't know, like, because I think there would be, if you put him out on loan, I think there'd be most of like the relatively top teams in League One who'd probably be like, yeah, I'd like
that. I think will come down to how well he performs for the rest of this season. I
I
think
wonder
if he has
even
a
if
quieter
January. I
season,
wonder
you know,
even in January maybe that is an option.
maybe.
I don't think we'll do it, but I just think that maybe is what he needs. Just to, I don't know. I just think that maybe.
We got
is what he
Kanu,
needs.
to be fair, has gone out and doing really well at Walsall. He's scoring regularly for
But
them.
I think you're also hitting that age where you want to get him out now. If you're going to get him out, you get him out now. Not you can't really do it as much when he's 23, 24, and maybe that's both sales. So.
I think as well, though, he is one of those. He's one of the only strikers we've got at the moment that's a very big physical presence. So maybe that's what we need, that as an option. Yeah, I get you.
But so let's move on then to the other two subs after that. So 76th minute, we had the introduction of Kane Ramsey and Harvey Nibbs. So Kane Ramsey, I thought, to be fair, once he came on, I don't think there was anything too much for him to do, but I thought he actually
shores us up a bit.
Us up, and the pace, especially at that point in the game where everyone's tiring. As soon as he came on, I thought, okay, I feel a bit more calm now, because I think he could take the sting out of the game.
It's a sensible sub to make at that moment in the game.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect, and I don't know what you think, but I don't think there's much to say about him as a substitute. But overall,
no, I think you're right. I think he brought a bit more of a calm at the back. He's that player that can catch up if someone does nip in behind.
Especially when he had to Jamal Lowe's. I think certain people in that squad who were still. He didn't seem to tire much. I mean, he was still running pretty much at the end. So, I thought overall pretty good game. And then moving on to Harvey Nibbs.
I think, again, it's the same thing with Nibbs that we've spoken about a few times. He's not really been given enough time to really get himself into the game.
No, I thought a little bit sharper. One thing I love, whenever he comes on, he puts a shift in.
He does. Yeah.
And I really like his physical side as well. You can tell he likes getting into a challenge. He likes being a bit more physical. And there are bits of the game that, as I say, we saw the Hollywood kind of highlight reels, and actually seeing that side of the game is actually quite nice. I don't think I will not judge him fully till he gets a.
No, we need to see him have some regular game time.
Yeah. Because I just don't think he's the kind of player who will get into a game coming on in the 76th minute.
Yeah, he needs a bit of time.
Yep. And then we'll move on to the final one. Hard to really say anything because I think the game was dead at this point. It really dropped into just us time wasting. Joe Rankin Costello.
Yeah, we not seen really much of him at all. And I thought, actually, when we signed him, I thought we'd see quite a bit more of him. Excuse me. But I think that he is one that the way that he played under when he played at Blackburn was very tenacious, very sort of hardworking. I think there might be a time this year where he does start to get used a bit more, especially maybe as the sort of winter period comes in, that we play more and more games back to back. But at the moment, we've really not seen anything of him.
I can only assume we've signed him in the thinking of him as a very, very squad player. Because if not, I can imagine he'd start getting a bit frustrated. Because I assumed he'd be coming from Blackburn in the position that he was kind of leaving there because what we're doing to him now is what he was doing there.
And also, he played a lot of games for Blackburn. It's not like he was like a bit part player.
Well, no, but I think towards the end he was. I think he had a historic of like getting into the squad, dropping out. But I think towards the end he was that kind of bit part player who I don't think he played huge levels for them, was kind of brought in when it was needed for cover. Except
I think we can't judge him off a 90th minute time wasting substitution.
No, and I don't think I judge him.
No, not at all.
I feel more.
You're wondering what he's going to play in terms of a role.
I wonder why not why we signed him, but what role were we signing him on the basis of he is just cover if we get a bad injury here and here, maybe a Coventry.
He's a Coventry/Doherty, that middle of the park sort of backup,
and maybe because they've been playing so well, we haven't seen him drop into that.
I think that's all it is. That we've just had some really good sort of performances from that middle of the park sort of pair. But I do think we will see, as the season goes on, we'll start to see him come on a bit more, maybe even like a bit, either an earlier substitution when players are tiring, or he'll get a few games where he does start. So let's wait and see what he can bring, because I think he's a quality player.
I think he's a good player. I just worry if you're not giving someone first, when he does come in, he's going to take a bit of time getting up to speed. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. So, so that ends the overview of Sheffield Wednesday. Very happy, as say. All we can say is happy to walk away with the 3 points. So, been quite a long one today, I think. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the final one, which is the preview of Tuesday's game. So we've got another 2 away games in a row. So I think it's 2 away, 1 home, and then we're back at 2 away. So Ipswich away.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, they did lose to Middlesbrough Friday.
But then prior to that, 3-1 against Norwich, 1-1 draw away to Bristol City, then a 2-1 win against Pompey, and a 5-0 thumping of Sheffield United.
I mean, they are littered with quality players. They got like Philigine's ridiculous. They got other really quality players in that team. it's going to be really tough. We're away from home. I think Jones will probably set us up to be really hard to break down. And then hopefully then we can get a goal, maybe on the counter attack from a corner, that sort of thing, long throw. Who knows?
Do you see it? I don't like the wording necessarily, but do you see it as a little bit of a free hit?
I think you have to, like, from where you. I mean, we essentially our prime target this season was to stay up. So if we're going to look at our season in that sort of under that lens, then we have to say when we're coming up against the teams that just come down from the Prem, we're not expecting to get anything from that.
No.
At the same token, though, we've already played Leicester, who we arguably should have at least got a point minimum from, albeit at the Valley. But who's to say we can't go to Ipswich and get something, even if it's a draw? A draw would be a fantastic.
I think I'd look at it and say a draw, I'd be over the moon. I think Nathan Jones, I heard it in an interview recently. I think any points on the road in the Championship are positive points.
Yeah.
So I think a point would be amazing. My biggest one is I'd just like to see a performance, and whether that's defensively, which, let's be honest, we know it's going to be. It's going to be solid, rigid performance. But as long as we walk away head held high and don't get thumped, preferably, I'd feel pretty happy. But overall, I would say it drops more into a free hit than maybe
Ipswich is just so good attacking as well. Like it would be really interesting to see how our defence can really hold up against probably one of the best attacks in the league.
Well, and I'm quite intrigued because I think all the teams we've played maybe in that top side of things, I think they've all been maybe early in the season just getting into gear. I think with Ipswich they kind of are, but I think they are now much more in gear than other games we've had. So I think it is the toughest test we've had all season.
Oh, yeah,
and I'll be very intrigued to see how our whole structure and how our team kind of faces up against that.
It's a Tuesday night as well, isn't it? It's one of those ones that comes quick after a weekend game, which could work in our favour or it could go against us. I don't know. I mean, our squad depth's good. Theirs definitely will be. So, let's see. We might rotate a little bit, but bring it on.
Yeah,
why not?
No, I think it'll be an interesting one, but let's see. So, so for the game Tuesday, we're going to get a video out on Wednesday with our thoughts on that game. Quick one we'll just do at the end. We'll have a quick look over the league table now, which will be coming up on the screen as we speak. 9th place.
Lovely.
Not bad, is it?
We'll take that all day long.
Yeah, I mean, once again, 3 points off third place at the moment, which...
beautiful.
Yeah, our playoff push is on.
Yeah.
But no, I think it is, as I say, that's one thing we've got to look at, and the main thing, which is my goal at the beginning of the season, the one thing I will look at until we are safe, is 8 points above relegation, and just, amazing start to the season.
So good.
Much better than I could have ever anticipated, and long may it continue.
The Addicks.
Well, let's leave it there then. So, thank you very much for watching this episode. As I say, we'll be back on Wednesday. And fingers crossed, it's not too bad at Portman Road. We'll see you in the next one.